This episode of Idle Thumbs is brought to you by Squarespace, an excellent and easy-to-use and very beautiful online website creation platform. Make your own website, portfolio, or online store in minutes. Go to squarespace.com and use the promo code THUMBS for 10% off.
It's June 10th, 2015.
This is Idle Thumbs 214. I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Danielle Riendo.
I'm James Spafford.
And I'm Nick Brecken.
Hi, Nick Brecken.
Hey.
How are you doing?
Great.
How do you do?
Featuring Spaff as Jake.
I am.
You did a
Jake
good job.
today.
That was a good Jake.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I
I've got his
I was very
chair.
convinced. I know what it is, and I believe it.
Yeah. The it has been settled.
Yeah, I believe in the it's.
That was pretty middling myself. I've seen better Jakes.
I've seen better Jake
It's
sitting in that
this full
chair.
head of hair that's throwing you off.
That's true. I can't deal
Shave.
with it.
This beautiful
Too much hair over there.
bounty of hair.
Bounty.
It's so hot in this room today.
It is really hot in this room.
warm.
It's a hot day in SF.
Yeah.
It's a little warm. By hot day in SF. Now, I'm contemplating a move to New York, so I'm contemplating having real weather again.
You're contemplating deserting us.
Yeah, well, not
You're going to say
exactly.
disaster.
Contemplating disaster. That's what I was ready for as well. No, there will be no deserting.
All right.
No, I will always be here.
I've been to New York 2 times, and one time was like 1,000,000-foot snow, deep,
Yep.
horrible snow, and then the
Yep.
other time it was like 110 degrees.
It's
Like,
pretty much one of
really,
those
really hot.
things most of the time there. So, yep, I'm getting ready for like 75 isn't hot, 105 is hot, and 60 isn't cold.
Minus a million.
10 is cold.
All right.
Well, these are Fahrenheit temperatures for our friends.
Yeah, I'm trying
who
to
use
like
better systems than
change
we
them
do.
in my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used American just now. I must be converting already.
Yeah.
There you go.
You're already
100
here.
just sounds cool and hot, though. You see, like, it's 100 degrees. That's hot. It's like 30 something and
Yeah.
Yeah.
40 or something.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about Celsius or centigrade is that the range of temperatures you have access to is so much smaller.
Yeah.
Like, I realize that it's kind of more logical in some ways, but Fahrenheit actually lets you really explore
You
a
can go all
much
over
bigger
there.
range of numbers.
I guess in
Yeah.
terms of like weather, like, when it's to do with like scientific.
Well,
like,
yeah, but I mean in
water
terms of
boils
things.
at
I know,
100.
well, I know, but
Yeah.
I mean in
Yeah.
terms of just normal people describing how hot they are going to be in their day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty useful. Our crappy American system.
Well, but those are just arbitrary anyway, right? Because
Yeah.
like those numbers are still like even the Celsius ones are just nonsensical. Like
Yeah.
not. I mean, I know they scientifically make sense, but they mean nothing in terms of like anything intuitive.
I think that
To
the
reality.
the two ranges
Yes.
are good. Like Celsius is good when it's cold because 0 sounds cold, but then the
Yeah.
Fahrenheit sounds good when it's hot because 100 sounds hot, right?
It's true.
Both of them
Just
fail.
mix and match.
at the
Yeah.
other
Those
end.
ones it doesn't matter. The metric system, I definitely like. It's bullshit that we're not on the metric system. Fahrenheit thing, I can't really get upset about.
Oh my god, we're
going
going to get so many emails about this now.
You might.
Well, moving on. Danielle, you played some video games.
I played a fucking video game.
What was it?
Whoa!
This game is called D4.
Yeah.
It's on the PC now. It used to be on just on the Xbox Connect, but now it's on the PC, and it
The
just
O
got
is
ported.
the box.
The
Best of all syllables.
You don't like the Xbox? What's wrong with you?
No, I love it.
So
Xbox.
the reason I'm talking
that was
Xbox-
inept Russian.
Man, that's true. The best,
Russian.
the best pronunciation of Xbox ever was someone I used to work with who was French who called it the Xbox.
The XBX.
Xbox.
It's delightful.
That was good. I liked it.
Oh,
Carry on. I'm sorry.
No, don't ever be sorry for bringing beautiful accents into the world. It's a good thing to do. The reason I'm talking like this, like my natural self, is that this entire game takes place in Boston, and it takes place with people with terrible Boston accents that are like,
They're
maybe.
terrible because they're badly put on.
I mean, okay, so they're
Or just
only
they're very
they're probably
strong.
only terrible to me because I actually know what they sound like.
Okay, so you
they're
think these are-
Hollywood Boston accents.
okay,
You know
okay.
what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
clearly somebody
Like a
went
Ben
to a
Affleck
voice coach.
Boston.
Yeah, I mean, which is
Well, I guess he's from
crazy because
Boston.
he's actually from Boston, but he does a poor Boston accent when he's in an actual movie. But yeah, so this game, it's a sweary game. So
you mean there's profanity in it, or it's by sweary 65?
It's by sweary 65.
Okay.
Yeah.
The guy who did Deadly Premonition.
Deadly Premonition, exactly. Yeah. And he has just sort of a bonkers aesthetic. Okay,
right.
Like just all over the place, like taking bits and pieces from all over media, and everything's wacky and colorful and all that. And the mechanics aren't always, 100%, but the worlds and the weird characters and the, the stuff that happens kind of makes it worth
the information you're saying, because all I can do is appreciate the aesthetics of how you're saying it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll go back to California. I'll go back to California next.
Okay, I don't know what is this game?
Okay, so this game it's a 3D game. It originally came out on the Kinect, so everything you do in this game has a sort of gesture-based interface.
It's called D4.
It's called D4, Dark Dreams Don't Die.
Oh.
Yep.
I think I remember hearing about this, but I don't really know what it is.
I mean, it came out maybe a year ago on the Kinect.
Yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, it's basically an adventure game with completely gesture-based controls, but with a PC, you're just using the mouse. Mm-hmm. They haven't really changed anything, though. There's still like a hand icon, even on PC. So, you're basically dragging and dropping, you're making dialogue choices, and you are doing sort of quick-time events at times when crazy action happens in the world. So that's the gameplay. But that almost kind of means nothing, because the reason you play these games is for just how out there they are and how wacky the characters are and everything like that. So you play as David Young, a detective with supernatural abilities, and in the very first shot of the game, he's falling from a great height into a bathtub with bubble gum on his face, and a woman's high heel drops next to him. Mm-hmm. And he's a supernatural detective who scans time to solve cases.
This is what this guy loves, because I mean, it's not the exact plot of Deadly Premonition, but it's definitely in that same...
so similar, yeah, in the same...
wheelhouse.
Same kind of style. And there's certainly, bits of Deadly Premonition in here, or bits of Twin Peaks in here, because Deadly Premonition was Sweary's love letter to Twin Peaks, certainly. And big part of the plot is that, of course, his wife was murdered, but that's the one case he could never solve, even though he's a detective, and there's a bullet in his head, which has granted him both his powers and robbed him of his memories of the day his wife was killed. Now, also important, yes, how these all things come together. There's also, in the very first few moments of the game, now I'm just describing the complete, just the setup. In the first few minutes of the game, we learn that there is a woman who lives in his apartment who is also a cat. She looks like a human woman. Mm-hmm. She dresses in a cat suit, but she behaves as a cat. She jumps around, she meows at things, she brings in dead animals in her mouth. She jumps all over the place. Amanda is a big part of this game, and probably the best example I can give of a character in this game. Everything is like that. Everything is some wacky pastiche of shit that you're not even sure if it's referencing something or if it's just trying to be funny and weird.
Yeah.
I am having fun with this. I'm having fun with this, but I also came into it with the same spirit that I went into with Deadly Premonition, which is this is going to be broken. Yeah. Or at least sort of broken. This works better mechanically because it's made for a horrible interface, so everything's kind of easy to just move along and choose the right choices. But you're definitely not playing this for the mechanics. You're just playing it for this being in this wacky world with Sweary's brain on display.
I'm always amazed when games like this continue to exist, because I really see these games. This is like the Dreamcast and PS2.
Yes.
That is where games like this belong, right? These weird, personal but not tiny, games that are sort of
it had a budget, certainly,
made with a reasonably sized team, but so unrefined from one person's brain. It's very different than when you say a personal indie game. That's not
absolutely
what I mean. I mean games where there's a 3D world, and you essentially interact with it the same way you interact with fucking Shenmue or something, except that it's just a direct line into some weirdo's subconscious.
Yes.
Except that they're also generally aware that that's what it is. So it ends up also, there's also this layer of artifice or self-consciousness about it. Like, he knows he's trying to do something whack. This is not him, like, being like, I just can't help myself.
This isn't The Room. It's
exactly.
I'm trying to think of a better.
Exactly. It's not The Room or something like that, and it's also not David Lynch, which is you know, those end products
all
are like
serious,
very polished and like, I mean, there's like elements of humor, but it's definitely like
it's a more sober depiction of whatever he's trying to
get
at.
Whereas this category of thing is such a weird, particular, like, self-consciously bonkers, like, I'm gonna put my brain in the game.
Yes.
And you know, it's like more often than not, it's a Japanese creator, and I think that's probably just because I don't think the mechanism to like make a thing like this exists in.
I think there's an appreciation for the weird that just exists in Japanese culture, where someone will greenlight that, whereas that won't.
The closest thing I can think
here.
of in the West is David Cage.
Yes,
that's like that. I think is like the closest we have, but that's still not. That's still more closer to the.
There's
the
no
Room than you know, like that's a little bit more like bad on accident than sorry, what, Nick?
I know.
There's not. I mean, there's Cage isn't winking at the screen as much as he sort of like.
As much as he wants to.
As much as I think he like.
Well, I think he thinks
he
thinks he's winking at the screen in a different way than he actually is.
I guess that's what I mean.
Including in the demo for Fahrenheit, or what was that? What was the game also called? Something Prophecy?
Oh, Indigo Prophecy.
Indigo Prophecy. Where in the demo, was it the demo for that, or was it the demo for
Heavy Rain?
No, the previous game, which was Nomad. Nomad Soul,
Omicron. Yeah,
I think it was Fahrenheit demo, where he himself like walks onto the screen, 3D modeled full David Cage, and goes, "Hello, I am David Cage, and this will be an unparalleled interactive experience," or whatever he says. And
I've never seen that. Is that really a thing?
There's mocapped, 3D modeled David Cage walks onto the screen and introduces you to the game.
That's awesome.
And he explains the premise of the game, which you then just experience in the game. It's so weird.
That's really awesome.
Have you guys seen the end of the Matrix game, The Path of Neo?
Yeah.
That reminds me of that.
No.
So the end of this game it's like a 20-hour like recreation of the Matrix trilogy. Very straightforward action game.
Not the ending, but the game.
Right.
The ending.
Yeah.
20-hour distillation.
Just all of the movies put together.
But at the end of this game, the screen just goes black before the sort of climactic battle that takes place in the film. And the Wachowski brothers, and I believe it's just a cartoon, like South Parky representation of them over just a white screen. These guys just like these cartoon characters just walk out onto the screen and they go, "So hi, I'm Larry Wachowski. Hi, I'm Andy Wachowski. So we were gonna do this ending, but we decided that it's kind of dumb. Like, we don't really like what we were gonna do, so instead we're just gonna make it completely batshit." And they talk for like 5 minutes.
Oh my god!
Like, it's this long cutscene of these guys just like doing their thing, and then it cuts to the final boss battle that they've like pitched to you as like the consumer. And it's like this absurd thing where it's like Agent Smith is like made out of cars or something, and he's like, or like other Agent Smiths are like a billion of them, and he's just like this huge fucking Godzilla monster. And then you punch him in the eye 3 times or something, and he dies, and it's just like end of the Matrix. Like, you've experienced the Matrix.
We've
Cut
done
to credits.
It now.
Like, it's like the rest, like in the context of the rest of the game, which is just like this very like scene by scene, like, oh, it's the lobby shootout. Oh, it's this. Oh, now Neo kisses whatever.
Yeah.
Like, then it gets to this thing, and they're just like, it's just fucking making a video game. And it's this crazy thing. It's insane.
More of that, please.
Wow.
Yeah, that's so good. Just no.
I think people are too. I don't know. Like, that game can't be that old, but
yeah,
I guess people are too afraid to do that.
But it's
enough. But people should feel free to do crazy shit.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we're past the shelf life of like, I'm talking to you through the game. Like, oh, can you believe it? I broke the fourth wall.
That was the Matt Hazard series, and where they absolutely just failed. Like, we're making a bad game, but we know it's a bad game. And it's like,
games you can't really do that with because they're just bad to play still.
They have to be playable. Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, D4.
Yo, yes.
So what is your like overall takeaway impression of this?
I'm having fun.
Yeah.
I also I will also recognize right now that I have an appreciation for weird off-kilter things that I don't think this is going to change anybody's minds if they're not already kind of in the right mood to experience something like that, it's not going to grab you and pull you in with like a great, perfectly written story. But it is going to be a wacky, goofy world of characters where I'm just laughing at the screen the whole time, being what is this?
Fight things? Because in Deadly Premonition, you'd shoot things.
You don't. I've only played maybe a couple of hours of it. I don't think so far. Most of the interaction, again,
I'm not saying that because I want that.
Yeah, you do.
I mean, in Deadly Premonition, the combat was definitely the low light of the game.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
Nobody wanted to fight shitty zombies in the worst possible way in that game. So not so far.
We did.
And yet we all did. It's mostly, I mean, there are definitely QuickTime events, or what you would call QuickTime events, but it's moving a cursor on
is
screen.
Like also where QuickTime events continue.
Yes.
David Cage also continues to, like, there's something about certain tropes that
and it all started
have a
with
home
Shenmue,
in this
as you
weird
were saying,
genre
like,
of game.
Yeah. Which I actually
Shenmue is like the
Shenmue,
straight version of all this. But I feel like Shenmue is almost the progenitor of a lot of this stuff. You know, this like walk around a world and talk to people, but in that very Japanese style.
Yes.
As opposed to the like Western adventure game style, which just feels fundamentally different.
We could call them slow time events. In the same way, right? That is clearly what's happening. Come back here in 5 hours so that you can be a forklift driver.
It's so
for hours.
It's true. I actually love
or
that
press
game.
triangle to
I remember, I think I've probably told this story on the podcast before, I can't remember, but I had a friend, Scott, in high school who had a Dreamcast and had Shenmue, and I didn't have consoles at the time. I've definitely talked about that before, and so I didn't really know very much about this. My experience with the Dreamcast was basically like Crazy Taxi and Tony Hawk.
Sure.
And SSX, I guess. And so he was like, guys, this game, Shenmue's amazing. You can do anything in this game. He basically was like regurgitating all of the like bullet points about it. And I'm sure he also liked it, but everything he was like, guys, it's amazing. It was like nothing you've seen before. You can do anything in this game. And I remember one day we came over like, all right, Scott, you show us this Shenmue thing. It better be amazing. And so you can like get something out of the vending machine.
You can
drive this forklift and there's a cat. And we're like, dude, what is this? This is lame. And he's like, no. I promise there's like fighting soon. Hold on. We just have to like, just hold on. I got to do this stuff first. And we just gave him so much shit, and we never saw him punch a guy.
That's basically the same thing that happened to me with that game.
Yeah. And now at this, like at the point I am in my life now, I'm like, okay, I don't really care about like punching another guy really. But at the time,
I want an immersive world. Yeah. No, I love that game so much. I bought the strategy guide. I knew everybody's like star sign, astrological.
You knew where the sailors were.
Yes.
I remember coming home from work one day, and my friend who was staying with me at the time had just been playing Shenmue all day, and he had just been at his job in the game like all day. I was like, what the fuck are you doing, man?
Oh, that's perfect. The forklift.
Hey, Kenty, that's you. I'm talking about you.
Man, that's just like time expenditure in games is definitely coming back in a big way thanks to mobile, and I guess all the simulation game craze. So it's coming back separately on PC and
free to play
mobile.
stuff.
And free to play stuff in mobile is kind of what I meant. But yeah. Speaking of which, I played that cat game.
Neko Atsume.
I tried to play it a little bit.
Yeah. After we talked about it last week, Sarah started playing it because
I saw it in the forums. Actually.
Yeah, so then I started playing it. And like I think I'm basically done with it, but it was fun to play for several days. The main thing I got out of it was that I deliberately didn't look up. I hadn't seen it really ever except for a couple like screenshots on Twitter. That was my whole. So I didn't really know what you actually did in the game, and our discussion of it last week was my sole exposure to it beyond like 3 Twitter screenshots. And so I deliberately didn't read anything else about it, and I'm like, I'm just gonna figure out how to play this game, which is entirely in Japanese and not localized at all. And that was like an interesting experience, because I didn't know what any of the menus did. And a lot of my pretty good chunk of my early experience playing this game was just like trying every menu and pressing things and like wasting fish, which is the currency, before I figured out like what I was basically doing. And there's still a couple buttons that I just don't know what they do. There's like a heart thing that has just like a big list of squares and I don't know what they do. But it's cool. I mean, it was a fun way to experience this thing. And now I have a, decent facility for getting cats to come and sit in my yard.
It's kind of compelling. I mean, I haven't actually played it. I've just watched my girlfriend play it and be obsessed with it. And, she'll be on her phone and she'll be like, she just shoves her phone in my face and is like, what should I name this cat? What do I name this one? I'm just like, Snickerdoodle?
I have one cat with a name, and the name is Games. Because as I was just clicking around, it's like, oh, it wants me to type something in.
Yeah.
So I typed it in, and I pressed it, and I said, oh, I guess this cat is named Games now. And
Games
all
the
the other
cat.
cats are named Japanese things.
Mine's named Fart.
Classic.
Excellent fart.
Fart and games.
Fart in games. There was one last thing I wanted to mention about D4.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's cool. I like the Neko Atsume, or I like hearing about it.
Oh, yeah,
like
sorry. The
hearing
game
about
is called
people's things.
Neko Atsume. And it's really hard
really
to search
cute.
for on the iTunes store. I've found, the App Store, because that the game name is actually rendered in Japanese characters.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
Not like Roman characters. And so the way I ended up finding it was by searching for the developer name, which is Hit Point, I think.
I just Googled weird Japanese iPhone game cat, and then it gave me a
was the
link
first
directly
thing.
to the store.
Okay, well, if you are on your phone and you don't have a way to do that, or I guess if you don't feel like doing that, you can search in the App Store for Hit Point, and the top result is this game by Hit Point Co. Limited, and that's what I did.
Do they have any other games?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's find out. The thing I like about the game the most. So I said last week that the game had kind of an MS Paint aesthetic, and it didn't seem like anyone else knew what I'm talking about. But now that I've played the game, I'm totally doubling down on that.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, it's definitely MS Paint.
Having looked at it again,
I mean, I don't imagine they actually used that software to make the art, but
I wish they did.
That would be
I mean, like,
amazing.
Yeah.
But that is what it looks like, and I don't mean it in a bad way. It's kind of just like adorable and lo-fi.
It works
Including
really
like
well for this
some
game.
of the plants are drawn in just like the sloppiest way. They literally look like someone just took a mouse cursor and just kind of went up, down,
There you go,
and
plant.
like the lines kind of like cross each other sloppily. It's good. The cats themselves are like are rendered to a much higher degree of precision than the
Fart
surrounding
looks
scenery.
beautiful. Yeah.
Let me see if there are any other games by this developer.
Well, Chris is looking it up. You can tell us about
Oh yeah.
your closing statements.
I wanted to mention. I have to do this in my accent. I'm sorry. I have to
fine.
because this
Go
is
for
a
it.
discussion that hits me near and dear as a New Englander. One of the early scenes in this game is about clam chowder. It's actually a discussion about clam chowder and about how New England style clam chowder, even though they say Boston style and the thing is actually New England style. Boston don't own everything, okay? Not in New England. But New England style clam chowder, how it's better than the New York style, which is actually called Manhattan style, but okay. I don't even eat fish. I'm a vegetarian. But I felt impassioned by this scene of like how they argued about chowder. Because that's actually true. People actually argue about chowder and about seafood in
I'll
New
argue
England.
about
Like
chowder
it is no
right now.
joke.
It's going to be a chowder off.
Are you a
Which one's the
Manhattan?
red one?
That's the Manhattan,
Manhattan.
style.
Oh, it's garbage.
Yep, exactly.
Why
Good
is it
answer.
red?
You can come to my house.
Nobody knows.
What red thing did
It's a
they put in
different
there?
broth. It's like a
Tomatoes, I
tomatoey
assume?
broth.
Yeah,
it's a clearish tomatoey broth. There's actually another style too, which is a totally clear broth, but New England style is the creamy sort of white.
Isn't that a
version.
thing out here as well?
People make it out here, but it's not.
Okay.
It's like pizza out here. Maybe you can get some of it, but
Yeah.
anyway, I that was very endearing to me. I really liked that a lot that they did that, and that was like, even though they got some of the details wrong, they got the sentiment right that people really, really, really care about things like seafood where I'm from.
Danielle, how excited are you that Fallout 4 is set in Boston?
Oh my god!
Oh man! Speaking of that, tune in next week for the dumbest podcast of all time as Nick and I delve into the Idle Thumbs archives to find out the degree to which our prognostication skills totally called Fallout 4.
Yeah.
So everyone is out of town.
Did a good job.
All Idle Thumbs hosts are out of town next week, except for me and Nick.
Yep.
We're the only ones here. So we are going to do.
Hold down the fort with the,
we're gonna
with
hold
the
down the
worst
fort.
content.
in the most classic E3 podcast of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Fallout 4.
Yeah.
All the scoops.
Yeah. So I don't know. Tune in for that next week, I guess.
Fallout 4.
So I looked up the other games by Hit Point Co. Limited, and they're all there's 5, including the cat game, and they're all totally different from one another. One of them is called Killer Panda. It's about that. It's like it looks like a comic. It's like
About that.
it looks like maybe it's like a side-scrolling game, but in this sort of comic book panel style. They have another game with no English name where every single screenshot has the same like big boobed, scantily clad anime lady just like smiling at you, and there's constellations in the background and like a Pokemon ripoff
What?
animal thing.
Good.
There's one called Henry. It's spelled like the French Henri.
Henri.
And that is like a pixel art
Henri.
kind of like side-scrolling thing. There's one that's like a baby in a sort of little animal suit jumping on a platformer.
These games were all generated by cats. They're just slapping Game Maker.
The art style in
It's
all
the
of them
cats
is
and the cat
completely
brain
different.
from Inside Out all
Yeah.
making a game.
Yeah.
None of the other ones look like the style of the cat game. They're all totally different styles.
Are they using different art packages from different
Yeah,
operating
they're-
systems
yeah.
throughout time?
Perfect.
Sorry, MS Paint game.
That would actually be really lovely to see an
So
artist or a
hypercard
team
game.
make something based on like, here are your limitations based on this shitty.
Photoshop
Here's like some
1.
old 3D software, like Maya, like 1 or something.
Oh
Like, make
man,
thing
there's a
out of
good
that.
video of
Yeah.
like current graphic artists trying to use Photoshop 1.
Oh man,
It's
Yeah.
so good. Look
I
that
bet.
look that up.
Oh my God.
I had to use Photoshop 1 in
one
school.
no
undo.
layers.
Yeah,
one
no
undo and
layers.
no
It's like
layers.
trying to use the GIMP.
Yeah.
There's no layers.
Yeah.
I beg your pardon.
Maybe the
Oh
GIMP
my
has layers now. I don't know.
I think it does.
Okay, it didn't used to.
It didn't used to though, yeah.
Yeah, you guys want to take a break?
Yes.
End this like completely cacophonous podcast half. Let's take a break.
Cacophonous.
Cat coffinous.
Cash coffinous? Good half.
Video games.
Every time I hear drumming now, I think of the "Are you rushing or dragging" thing from Whiplash, and I get like a
Oh, I weirdly watched
Thing.
that movie like second
Been a
hand
long time.
oh really
on the like the screen, the tablet
in
screen
somebody
of a guy
else's
next to
screen?
me on the airplane.
On a
Not
plane.
like the seat inset, but just his little
Sure.
pad. It's that horrible instinct that humans have when there's like
just have
a
to
moving
see a
thing on a
thing.
screen.
Yeah,
and you're like,
exactly.
oh, my eyes are just drawn to this. So this guy watched the whole movie, and I probably watched like 75% of the movie by just like surreptitiously glancing.
I've noticed people doing that when I'm watching stuff on trains sometimes, and I've like enabled subtitles so that they can enjoy it. I'm like, fuck it, why not? I'm just.
Well, he had subtitles on
really
too.
nice.
Oh, there you go.
So,
it's fine.
so I followed the whole movie, and it was such a funny experience
But you
to have
didn't
because
hear this movie
yeah,
about
and
music.
It's about music. It's about music and
Yeah.
a guy screaming and drums. It's about all things that you must hear.
So you totally failed. You just.
Well, I feel like I got the gist,
Yeah,
nonetheless, because the emotions of that movie are not subtle. At least I don't
yeah.
take them to be based
I
on
agree.
what I man screaming profanity at kid.
Man throwing chair at kid's head.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
it's pretty.
yeah.
I haven't seen
Rough.
it yet. I
Anyway.
want to though. I keep forgetting.
Well, if you find
Yeah.
yourself on a plane with someone watching it next to you, I highly recommend
I'll just
it.
watch it. Yeah, that's nice of them to have the subtitles on.
Yeah.
What a fellow. What a
God,
nice
he was
guy.
he was playing so he was going between that and some just like the most insipid mobile like money grab. Oh, he was playing the Game of War Fire Age.
Oh my! He was playing.
Really?
He was
Oh
playing
my
the
God.
Kate Upton boob lady game.
Wait, is this
We
the
totally
same, you
talked
talked about this
about-
guy on the podcast before?
Yeah.
Yes, you
No,
have.
this is a
The
no.
other
The
side of the
second
story?
guy.
No, that was months ago. This was like
Oh.
last week.
But it just seems like it's the same type. Like the
It
same
just seems
type
like it's
of
the
guy.
same guy. It
Yeah.
seems like you follow this guy around.
This guy
Maybe
wasn't-
he's
and you
the
just
same
pirate
guy.
all of his
Yeah.
shit by watching it.
Those were two guys, and they were big business guys in like
Yeah.
black
Yeah.
business clothes and shoes. And this guy was just kind of like a
dude.
fucking dude.
Fucking dude.
Yeah, switching between those two different things.
Like intermittently, like 20 minutes into the movie,
Yeah,
just
like
play
20,
a bit of the
20,
game,
30 minutes.
lose,
Yeah.
go back
Yeah,
to the movie.
I don't know if he was losing or not. I couldn't really follow the game. I followed the movie much better than I followed the game.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
I think the movie is worth following more than the game probably
Yeah,
was.
that's probably true.
So.
At least he didn't have like the
God,
movie
that game, that fucking Game of
That
War
game.
Fire Age with those ads with her, that game apparently they brings in like $1 million a day.
It's very profitable.
It's so and they spend
top
so
mobile
much
game,
money.
yeah,
They spend so much money on those ads, and they've been just a complete success. Just like wildest dreams level of success.
I have a friend who works there and really loves
Oh, really?
it. He really
What is the
loves
company?
it.
Where are they? What are they?
It's Machine Games.
Where are
they have an office
No,
here.
it's not.
It's not Machine
That's
Games.
not Machine
What
Games.
am I thinking? Machine Games make the
They make Wolfenstein.
Wolfenstein games. Yeah.
Machine Zone.
That's what it is. That's why I thought it had a machine in
Machine
it. Okay.
Zone.
Sorry.
Good name. This is just everything. Game of War Fire Age by Machine Zone. It's just everything.
Yeah.
It's like, guys, we need another name for anything that we do.
Machine.
Take out the fucking random generator. Let's just go punch in
Machine
some
Zone.
words.
Someone go read that guy's like Goodreads book. Just pick a
man.
sentence out of that.
Oh man.
And then
Are you talking about the crazy author?
yeah, Dylan.
Did you guys see this?
Oh, it was beautiful.
What his response
it's beautiful.
to the
Yeah.
1-star?
Oh my god. So, if for anyone listening who doesn't know what this is, an author got some just like guy who did self-published a book, like a fantasy book or something. I don't know. Someone on Goodreads, just like the sort
Sorry,
of. Just,
Chris. It's World of Warcraft meets Lord of the Rings meets.
wait, is that really what?
It really
Just
is.
at the top of the
ridiculous.
page, he describes like.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, the initial review, she's like, I read this book because it was described as, if you like World of Warcraft, Lord of the Rings, and Halo, then you'll love this book. It was just like, it was a really strange list.
At least it's a catch-all.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I guess that's me. I guess I do like those things.
So the book was called The Boy and the Peddler of Death. Someone on Goodreads gave it a 1-star review, and it was like 3 sentences. She was just like, this was very wordy and pretentious. I did not like this book at all. And the author marched in and was like, excuse me very much. Do you realize you're destroying my livelihood?
You're destroying
And
my business.
Yeah, and just fucking becomes obsessed with this woman.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And she even goes back, and she's like more than reasonable. She's like, well, I just wrote this quickly, and not everybody has the same opinion. Like, she didn't get vehement about it.
He
just kept going more.
Yeah.
He just digs in further and further, and it's like.
And the funny thing about it is that her biggest complaint was that the book was needlessly wordy.
Yeah.
And then he just spends 20 paragraphs explaining why it isn't needlessly wordy.
did
With
you guys-
quotes from David Lynch in there and all kinds of shit just thrown in.
Did you guys see this guy's IMDb page?
No. He has an IMDb.
He's like an extra. He's like a professional extra who just does background work in.
He never talks in a movie, and that's why
film
he's
and
needlessly
television?
wordy in his books.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what's going on here. The doctor is in. 5 cents.
He said he was trying to save people from
Yeah, he's one of those
something.
Conspiracy guys who thinks that anything the government does is enslaving all of us forever. He's one of those guys who everything is a slavery metaphor.
Sure.
Even when it's a person reviewing his book.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
He's the kind of person who talks about slavery constantly, but would never bother talking about actual slavery.
Right.
Right. That's like a category of person.
Yeah.
The kind of person who raises every indignancy to the level of the Holocaust and slavery, but you don't actually get the sense that they're really all that bothered. Not that he would be in favor of slavery, but it just doesn't really seem to bother him as much as all these other things that he uses slavery metaphors for.
Because that's what bothers him.
Yeah, he has amazing personal quotes attributed to him on IMDb. I wonder who sourced these. Anonymous is who sourced these. On IMDb. They include: born free, I became a slave. My life will deliver renaissance, or I'll die trying. Either outcome shall set me free.
You should probably take Deus Ex Human Revolution taglines and then sub those in, and then we can play a game to see whether it's game or this guy.
Game or guy.
He didn't
guy.
ask for this.
Yeah.
Game or guy, the new game. Have Adam Jensen's voice actor read
That's what I
all
want.
of them.
That's totally what I crave.
There's going to be a renaissance.
I will deliver a renaissance or die trying.
I didn't ask for this renaissance.
Man, so if you want, I don't really know how to link to this other than if you go to my Twitter page, which is twitter.com/Chris Remo, I linked to like an archived version of this Goodreads thing because he deleted his account after everyone on the internet was like, "You
After having
are the worst."
a pissy fight. Yeah.
And then also his IMDb page is linked on there as well. This was my favorite thing of today.
Delightful.
Yeah. You guys want to record a podcast?
Oh my god,
yeah.
we should.
We didn't begin yet.
No. This episode of Idle Thumbs is brought to you by Squarespace, an excellent online website creation tool that allows you to create your own website, portfolio, blog, or online store in minutes. It is beautiful. We've used it. We like it. Works on all your mobile devices without any trouble or fuss. It is great. And interesting fact, in addition to sponsoring this podcast, Squarespace is also sponsoring the premier online Hearthstone event, Vulcan Deckmasters. You can find this at twitch.tv/VulcanHS. That's VULCUNHS. And this is going on right now. I watched some of it today. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I watched a little competitive Hearthstone recently. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's cool because it's a head-to-head thing that
Yeah.
is not like incomprehensible. Because you can actually see all the information on
It reminds me of broadcast poker tournaments.
Right, yeah,
You can
exactly.
see the cards of on each side.
Is it quite
You get into
speedy?
the psychology. It can be pretty speedy. You know?
That's the kind of shit that I would never be good at. The set plays of like cards.
Well, you know who
and
is
stuff.
good at it?
Yeah.
The players in the Vulcan Deckmasters online Hearthstone event, which has a $100,000 combined prize pool. Sponsored by Squarespace. It is the first time they've sponsored an online event. Not the first time they've sponsored this podcast, though. You can go to squarespace.com and use the promo code THUMBS for 10% off as you create your online website, portfolio, blog, or store. Squarespace.com, promo code THUMBS. This episode is also brought to you by NatureBox. Yeah, classic NatureBox, a delicious snack subscription service that will bring all kinds of tasty treats directly to your door, the door of your home or your office or any other door that has a valid mailing address in the United States or Canada. We love NatureBox. We chomp down on that NatureBox all the time.
Big Island pineapples.
Yeah, you got those Big Island pineapple slices.
Mocha almond bars. Those are delicious too.
Mm-hmm.
I like those.
You got all kinds of like
wasabi peas.
wasabi peas and like ranch peas and all kinds of
Ranch
like
peas. I
delicious
need to try those.
Yep.
Jeez.
Jake, I know, is a fan of some of the sweeter treats.
I am.
Okay, that took me a second. If you go to naturebox.com/thumbs, you can get a free trial of NatureBox for a nominal shipping charge. Got to get on this. It is basically no commitment, and you can figure out how delicious you think NatureBox is. Naturebox.com/thumbs.
Oh man! So last night I watched the William Gibson written X-Files episode entitled First Person Shooter.
Oh, the bad one.
Oh, okay. Oh, is that the virtual reality one?
Yeah.
That's the bad. He wrote 2 episodes, and that's the shitty one.
Holy moly.
Why does this come up? What is the
I think so it came up because we've been watching the X-Files, my girlfriend and I, and we kind of have reached the bottom of the barrel, I guess you would say.
Sure.
And I've never ventured into the later season episodes. We were just scrolling down like the first season where it started to turn horrible. And then there was this episode called First Person Shooter. Oh my God. I mean, so it is unquestionably the worst episode of the X-Files I've seen. But what's remarkable
even worse than
about
all the Doggett ones?
well, that remains to be seen.
It's a different show.
That to me, that's
Yeah.
whatever. But this is Fox Mulder and Dana Scully, like the same characters, presumably, supposedly.
Yeah.
But the thing that's amazing about this episode is that they set up Mulder as this huge like game geek, like
Out of nowhere.
The premise, out of nowhere. The premise is totally absurd. They're like these guys who made a virtual reality game. it's not really VR as we would conceive of it today. Like you are like in a warehouse. I don't know how they were going to market
like
this.
laser tag.
It's this startup, and they're about to go public and like about to release their big game in like a week, and it's going to go, it's gonna sell like gangbusters. But how could you replicate 50 aircraft hangars to house this thing? But so you put this suit on. It's like paintball. You put this suit on and like this goggles, and you're in this virtual world. And of course, like these three like dorks are like play testing it, and in the teaser of the show, and like they get killed.
You watch the teaser first, and then you watch it. Why would you do this?
They get killed by this.
You're like, maybe I'll watch it.
Maybe I'll watch this.
Okay, I'm in.
What's amazing is that they die to this like it's a 3D modeled woman. And she's the most stereotypical...
She's made out of cars.
Yeah.
1,000 cars.
She looks like something out of, like, Sin episodes or something. Like, it's that...
Wow, deep cut.
Man.
It's a weird, like, era for... It was, like, I think it was released in 2000. It was right at the cusp of a higher fidelity. So it was like if you saw like a pre-rendered Quake image or something, that's what she looks like. But with like the black leather spandex garbage. Like they made her look like a magazine game ad.
Yeah.
And so they kill this guy. And Mulder and Scully arrive on the scene. And they're like, oh, how could he die? He was in the game. It doesn't make any sense. Like there aren't any bullets. This is weird. And so they do an autopsy on this guy. And like the dialogue is terrible. But like so Dana's like doing the thing. She's cutting the guy open. And she's like, so he died from a bullet. No, that's stupid. He died from virtual reality. No, that's really stupid. Like she just keeps like contradicting herself with this.
Why doesn't you just look at what's in his body?
Yeah, but why?
She's like, well, it seems like a bullet, but it wasn't. This doesn't make any sense. And then Mulder comes in. And she's like, God, this is really strange, Mulder. And he's like, yeah, I mean, video games. And she's like, no, it wasn't the game that killed him. That's impossible. And Mulder's like, what, Dana? Video games are real. Like, this is a valid form of entertainment. And they started with this, like, weird, like, early 2000s, like, pseudo-intellectual rant about, like, video game violence. And she's like, who would play these testosterone-filled fantasies? And Fox is just like, hey, right here, hey. Like, he actually, like, holds up his hands like a douche.
Oh, my God.
It's so weird. The whole episode is, like, evangelizing... like how games that are violent are there as like necessary releases for testosterone and like male impulses.
And they also kill people.
It's crazy. It's insane. I recommend everyone watch this episode. It ruined my conception of what the X-Files.
No, that like if you die in the game, you die in real life. That's all. Every single mainstream one, right? That's all of them.
But just
pretty much.
What if that was true?
Man, I was thinking the other day, it's funny you bring this up because I was thinking this, I think, for a different reason because of Murder, She Wrote. But I was thinking because there's also...
the time Angela Lansbury went inside the game and died.
Well, there's a virtual reality episode of that show. And, and I was like, man, has anyone ever made a game where the aesthetic of the game is 90s network television virtual reality? That was like a huge thing in network television shows, dramas, and kind of like light sci-fi shows in the 90s. Yeah. Was like, what if your character who you love, your like detective character or whatever, now is inside the virtual reality? And they all kind of have this weird look that's like basically, I don't know, sort of Pixar animatic quality. So like the sort of proof of concept that...
it's the bright, flat-shaded polygons that just look like, like an early test render for something.
There's two versions of it, because there's that version. Yeah. Then there's also the, like, shiny chrome version of it. But they all are, like, this incredible midpoint of, like, this is way too high... fidelity for you to render in real time in this year. Yes. Except by the time computers are capable of doing this in real time, no one would ever make anything that would look like this because it looks ridiculous. Like everything else would improve beyond the ability to just like render a model at that. With that many fucking polygons in it. Like,
there was an entire show called VR5 that was sort of...
I learned about this for the first time the other day, because I think I posted that on my sort of idle musing on Twitter, and I think someone pointed that out.
I don't remember it well, because I only actually watched it in the 90s as a kid, and it was the guy who plays Giles in Buffy is in that show, and that's the only... I think he's the only, like, star of the show kind of thing. He's in a lesser role, I think, in this one. But yeah, it has to do with I think she's a detective or something. Again,
Does she go into virtual reality to fight crimes?
She goes into virtual reality, to like solve mysteries or figure out what's going on for real in the world, that sort of thing. It's the general premise. It's very 90s, yeah.
Well, that style of CG reminds me of like Reboot.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
That ugh. It's on. I think it's on Netflix. You can watch that show very easily now.
I remember when that came out, and I remember I had like sort of a very sort of just default level of enthusiasm for it, because I'm like, oh, it's the computer stuff. Like, oh, that's cool. I like computers. And then I think I watched one episode, and I was like, and then I just didn't watch it.
Yeah, I remember doing exactly that, going, oh.
Yeah. I just kind of forgot about it. It wasn't even like, it was sort of an era before the internet, or at least before the internet was widespread like it is now, where the hype cycle was just a different thing, or at least it felt different to me. You know, whereas now the way that goes is people get really excited about something, they watch consume all the things, all the trailers, and everything. Then it comes out and it's like, either there's like this epic disappointment, or it's like the best thing ever, or they hate it but they keep watching it just because the conversation is there. But at the time, it was just like there wasn't any of that like omnipresence of things, or at least it was easy. It was much easier to ignore it. So I remember that thing came out, and I just like a week later, I'd completely forgotten about it. It was this thing that I was like excited about, and then it kind of just like I just didn't watch it anymore, and that was it.
Yep.
And it was just kind of meh.
That's kind of nice.
Yeah,
to be able to do that.
It's weird to think about that now, because that's just not how things are now.
No.
Everything is a zeitgeist.
Yeah, or
for better or for ill.
Wants to be, you know what I mean? Or is a spectacular failure at being one.
Yes.
You know? I think there are people who really like that show, though. I remember there were people who were bummed when it was canceled.
Yeah. There were a lot. Well,
I'm sure some of them will write into our podcast.
That company also made, I think, the Beast Wars Transformers show, which also was very popular.
Maybe they're the same people that get really depressed when they're not watching Avatar, the movie.
Yeah.
Did you know what he's referring to?
The like real life Avatar cosplay people, or
no. I remember when I never saw Avatar, but I remember when it came out.
Yeah.
There was. I remember I saw an article on CNN.com about this like weird phenomenon of people who saw the movie in theaters like a bunch of times, and then like when the movie wasn't in theaters anymore, they like fell into a depression. Because they're like, the world of Avatar is so beautiful and so much more vibrant than our shitty, dull world. I can't bear to not live in Avatar. Oh. And it was this weird thing. It was like
opinion.
A bunch.
you kissed the ground as you walked out of the theater. Thank you.
Yeah, the reporter was able to like find a bunch of people to interview about this who had this weird
extreme
reaction to
feeling about it.
Yeah.
It's weird, huh?
I feel of two minds. I feel bad for those people.
That's how I feel about the world of Murder, She Wrote.
I mean, that's how I feel about Farscape.
Yeah.
But
gotta do that Farscape podcast.
Special cat. I want to. I need a co-host.
Yeah.
But I want to do it. Who wants to watch Farscape with me?
Find a fellow Farscape fan. Find a triple F.
You need someone to rewatch it, though.
Yeah, that's.
Or do you want someone to watch it?
Maybe I could have somebody doing it fresh.
You could have you could have the dedicated rewatcher. And the fresh face.
Of making
that would be totally
Patricia
fine.
Do it with me.
That would be totally doable, I think.
If she does it. I'll be like, all right, we'll move to New York if you do this with me.
Because then, the people who listen to the show, who love the show, have their personality that they identify with. But then if they themselves are trying to sell a friend on Farscape, they could be like, oh, check out this this part. They'll tell you which ones the best ones to watch are, and that's not going to be impenetrable to you because there's someone on it who's
coming into this
not
fresh.
indoctrinated already. So.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's what you got to do.
All right, we have a plan.
Yeah.
I like it.
Solved.
Mm-hmm. And now we've talked about it publicly, so...
Exactly. Now it has to happen. I'm fine with it. I've been wanting to do it for a while, honestly.
All right,
Any excuse to rewatch Farscape, I'm down.
Done.
I'm happiest when I'm rewatching Farscape. I'm like those Avatar people. No, I'm not. But I can understand. I mean, okay. I think I'm a well-adjusted individual who has a life and a job and friends and hobbies and sports. But I understand on some level being so so invested in a piece of fiction. Like,
Yeah.
you love it so much, and you love being in that world so much that you get depressed if you feel like you can't have it anymore. Like, I don't think I would be that
the day they
involved,
make like a
but
VR West Wing experience for me, I'm
there you go. That'll be it.
It'll just be like,
You're just
yes,
gonna be
Toby, I'll have that ready for you.
You're just gonna
Oh, yes,
be
Toby.
walking back and forth hallways.
Yeah, talking
Yeah,
to just
that's
people.
all I want to do is just
You're
be
gonna be
sitting
the
there.
fittest person because all you're gonna do is walk.
You
down
just
the hall.
Taking
walk-
notes in
Place together.
meetings, like,
God.
yes,
Yeah,
Mr.
I-
President. That'll just be me.
Yes,
People will be
Mr.
walking
President.
behind me.
I like that your fantasy is not even to be the president.
No. I
his
just want to be
orbit.
there. I just want to be in the background.
world.
Yeah, you got a choice between doing PR or you can do like.
Right. No, I just want to, carry his bags.
You want to be the Gary from
And then he'll probably turn to you like one time and say something very sage,
Right.
and it'll change your whole mentality.
Yeah. And then I'll replay that level over and over again.
Level.
every episode is a level.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Good atmosphere in here today, gang. So many
I love
pats
it.
on the back for these.
Positivity.
Yeah, it's good conversation is rewarded.
And we're back.
Awesome.
Finally,
Yes.
it feels so good.
Yeah.
I feel really good too. Spaff, I have to talk to you about something I feel good about.
Okay.
I finished Life is Strange last night.
Oh, cool. Up
I
to
finished
episode 3.
episode 2 and episode 3, and my feelings are similar. I'm still loving it. I'm still along for the ride. I am still absolutely loving the atmosphere in these characters and this, like, sometimes atrocious, but atrocious in the best way dialogue that just feels like, it feels like this French team were writing American teens, but
But they're writing the hell out
it
of them.
works
Yeah.
for me.
No, but
they are putting 100% into it.
You know what it's like? You were talking about how it's kind of 90s, and I think that it's very much like a 90s TV show that is about these teens, and that's why the
Yes.
writing kind of fits, even though it's dumb. And
Yes.
that's why the storylines are kind of like,
It's,
whatever.
it's like my so-called life. It is very my
So
so-called
the
life.
90s, it's funny that you say that because I hadn't thought about this in this way before. The 90s was kind of like sort of brought back the sort of snappy dialogue tradition from like Hollywood screwball comedies and like classic romantic comedies, not like modern ones, but the sort of like really like zingy back and forth ones of, the 30s to 50s and 30s, 40s especially, I guess. But like resituated that stuff in the grunge era. That was like the 90s. So you had these like sort of like characters who were all about kind of irony and dry wit, but also had this weirdly like almost like joyful attitude to dialogue that they would never cop to being joyful, but
Clearly someone's enjoying the fuck out of this.
It's a really weird combination of things. And I have to admit, it was never really spoke to me per se.
Sure.
But there's definitely like, as someone who largely grew up in the 90s, it is a potent, it is definitely a potent artifact of that era. Is that combination of things.
Yeah, and I think that's really scratching that itch. I never knew I had this itch, but it's really bringing me back to being a teen in the 90s. I was only a teen in the late 90s, so I can't say like I had the full teen 90s experience. But
even though it's not set there at all.
It's
And they're,
set
like,
in 2013.
phones
It just
and-
feels like the 90s. Just the fashion, and like I said last week, like the whole obsession with grunge, everything. It's just so very angsty teen in the 90s. And I got to the bubble hearth dialogue option last night, and I was just laughing my ass off just because it feels so very like, oh, this is so specific. Like, yes, we kind of know that Warren, this character who might be a love interest, he might not be. You can choose either way. You can also, never mind, I won't spoil anything because it's actually really exciting.
Well, we can
but
give
in
a
terms
spoiler
of love
tag.
options, there's a variety, let's say, that I was pleased to see in this teen game that would not have been in a teen thing in the 90s. So that's pretty cool. Anyway.
So wait, so Danielle, unqualified positive response.
Yeah,
Spaff, what is your take having played up to the currently released episodes?
Of all 3. I really like it. I'm enjoying playing through it. It's the same thing. It's like that cheesy 90s-ish TV show. Like Alice, my girlfriend Alice, really loves really cheesy. I consider them to be cheesy anyway. Like shows like what's she watching?
No 210 or
Yeah, stuff like that. I don't know. All the shows she watches have this kind of very cheesy thing that I find very hard to kind of
I know
get
what you
behind.
mean. Yeah, I know the kind of thing you mean.
Yeah. What's she watching? I can't remember all the stuff.
Where there's like a layer of like it's kind of what
schmaltz and like
Yeah.
American
Little bit,
gloss
yeah.
over the top
Right,
of it.
yeah.
Instead of the opposite, instead of the gritty kind of that kind of American.
grunge.
Instead of The Wire, it's more like Burn Notice or something. I don't know, like something that has like a jaunty theme tune, and then a cop. Oh no, not a cop. Someone who is not a cop is solving crimes. That's very specifically. Very specifically someone who is not a cop.
Right.
They're a writer or they're a food
Like
blogger
a
or some
mentalist or
shit.
something.
Yeah.
And they solve crimes. And
We
there's
have an
like
obsession with that in America, don't we?
Yeah,
Anybody
really.
can solve a crime in America.
yeah, they're like a mathematician, and so they know how to solve crimes. Like whatever, that kind of stuff. Yeah. But it fits into that. I think that the storyline of it evolves interesting. Like the end of, we should put a spoiler thing here. If you want to not know about what happens,
because no matter how many times you say spoiler warning, people are gonna get pissed.
I'm going to talk about the story now. So just
Is it
don't
important?
listen.
It's a big one.
Yeah, there are
I know what he's
multiple.
gonna say,
there are multiple acts of this thing, and every time at the end of each episode,
Watch
there's some
out!
cool
Fucking
things.
warning!
I'm
Everyone
telling you.
listening.
Warning! Alerts!
He can't be stopped.
Should we
Well,
clap?
we don't. Like, I'll
so you
try.
know where to put a timestamp? Should we clap for this?
Skip to 59 minutes 45 seconds to avoid spoilers.
Anyways, there are a couple of plot points in it that are a little bit tropey and annoying. Like there's a person who's in a rape scandal scene who has been maybe drugged and raped at a party, and that's kind of annoying. There's that tropiness of that in there. But then again, when it's about a 90s kind of vibe show, it just fits perfectly in there. It's just right in there because that's what all of those
That's
shows.
what it would have
that's
been
why
about,
there's a
yeah.
trope, because that came from that
And
world.
I actually had mixed feelings about that. Not entirely I also am like, oh great, another sort of rape subplot. Whenever there's women in a game, there's a rape subplot. But the way it's presented, because you're playing as a young woman, and this is another young woman, there's almost an interesting commentary about, do you believe her or not? And do you show her that you believe her? That I felt was a much better, maybe they didn't even do this on purpose, but the way it read to me was this is a much more nuanced take on just, oh, there's a rape subplot. It's more like, the important thing is that she feels like you believe her. Yeah. And that seems to say so much. I mean, especially with how often rape victims are not believed, or sexual assault victims are not believed. And that's a really huge problem in our society. And it felt like they're saying something with this. Again, maybe unintentionally, because the writing does not necessarily inspire that level of nuance for in a lot of other ways. But I really liked that about it. If they're going to take it in this direction, at least do something with it, I guess.
And from the very beginning, this character is kind of behaving oddly, and you can choose to be completely the opposite of supportive and just be like, she's a creepy, weird person, and just fuck with her life. And I didn't do that, so I chose a very supportive route through that storyline, which becomes even more tragic because this is the spoilery part of that thing. At the end of Act 2, she tries to kill herself by jumping off a roof. Now, up until this point in the game, you remember you're able to rewind time and save people from doing crazy shit or having things drop on them. And at this point in the game, mysteriously your powers start failing, and you genuinely have to try and talk her down without being able to use any of your powers. And it's awesome because it makes you feel incredibly just powerless, as you would be normally. But when you've been empowered up until that point to kind of just
that's really interesting.
do whatever, it just goes boop, now deal with this. And you're like, and if you choose the wrong things, she's gone, and then that's it. You can't go back.
And you would have to reload a save. You would have to cheese the game basically to do that.
Because I didn't even know if it was possible to save her until at the end, when it has that Walking Dead style, 20% of people did this thing or whatever. I was like, oh shit, you can actually save her. I just chose poorly.
I was so depressed,
and it was really, really affecting.
When that happened. Yeah, I was actually depressed. I was streaming this. And I'm usually very goofy, and I talk the way I talk. And when this happened, I was just like, "What the fuck? What the fuck?" And I just got very upset, not just angry, but I was actually hurt. I was actually I cared about this girl. I looked through all her mail, You know,
Yeah, I looked at her trash
I invaded
bin.
her privacy, and therefore I'm very sympathetic.
But she didn't know about it.
yeah, she didn't know about that.
I'm just
Okay.
curious, did you guys feel when you made the wrong choice, like you made the wrong choices, what should die?
I did. I had most of them right, but if you make any one, there's several questions. If you kind of get any one of them, it's not that they're questions, they're options. Like your father cares about you versus your sisters care about you, something like that. Like
I guess you have to be paying attention to her life a bit more by being nosy to know.
to
I was
know
gonna say,
exactly.
I was just curious if you felt cheated by that at all, and the fact that it was kind of like a fail state for something that you would have to really,
I feel like it was great because that's probably the way you would feel if a person who's in your life who's not, your best friend or something, but you care about them because they're a person in your life, they're a friend on some level. You wouldn't know all this shit about them. Like, nobody would. And, like, that's probably how you would feel, like, completely powerless and completely, like, shit because you didn't know the right thing, basically. Like, I actually thought that was a powerful way of doing that. Like, yes, it's a fail state, but this isn't a game I play to win, I guess. I don't know.
Also,
that sounds cheesy. I know that's the cheesiest thing anybody can say, but, like, I'm in it for being affected and
the story goes on, right? It's not exactly a fail state. It's just like,
right.
shit.
I just mean
but,
in the sense that you can win the conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I wonder how different the story would have been, and I'm genuinely kind of interested to see where it would be, because her, being dead and that affects the character is like a huge part of that plot. So it's interesting that they chose to do that. But it's cool that the game evolves to the point where it's throwing things like that in instead of just kind of carrying on with the rewind thing. As though I think it would have been worse if you could rewind it.
Oh yeah,
and,
it would have been like power out of it. Yeah,
but the fact you couldn't made it really good.
it's cool.
I love that this game. The first episode I loved and thought it was cool, and there's sort of like a megaton at the end of that one. But the megatons keep getting bigger.
They keep coming.
Bigger and bigger, like at the end of each episode. And
you got two
they're
more left.
genuinely, yeah, I know. And I didn't predict any of them. Like I didn't feel like any of this was actually like, as much as this is playing off of tropes from cheesy 90s TV that is predictable, the actual structure of the story and what's actually going on I don't feel like it's paint by numbers. I feel like it's doing some interesting things, even if the lines themselves feel like they were written on Home Improvement or whatever.
Well, maybe we shouldn't spoil the third one just in case people listen to that. We're like, oh, actually, maybe that's cool. Just that the third one does another cool thing as it builds up to the end that's awesome as well. Yeah. And it's different again.
Maybe I'll go back and record a thing saying I will rewind time and tell readers at the beginning of this discussion when they can skip to
59 minutes 45 seconds.
Yeah. Which
I hope I remember.
Should we
I hope I
clap?
remember to do that. Yeah.
Should we clap? There we go. Yay. Good
This has
job.
been the most appreciative episode of Idle Thumbs.
Yeah, I feel really good.
It feels so good.
Yeah. Anyway, that game's cool.
I really like it.
You want to do some reader mails? Is that what you're going to do?
Let's do some reader mails and queuing some.
Clap at the end of each one.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Chris is going to be looking for the clap waveforms. There's going to be hundreds of them littered throughout.
So funny.
Mackenzie Moore writes, "My dad also plays one video game. I'm several weeks late to the conversation, but since parents who play video games is always interesting to me, I wanted to share that my dad also plays only one video game. His game history. Mild interest in the arcade days for social reasons, and most of the 90s and early 2000s telling my sister and me our console games all look the same. Quote, it's always some guy running around the middle of the screen making ooh noises. In order to challenge this view of my beloved games, I showed him a game that didn't look like any of the others we'd played, and now at age 53, the only game he will willingly play is Flower by that game company.
Oh man,
That's
Wow.
amazing.
I bought him a PlayStation 3 so he could play it at his house after I showed it to him on my own PS3. For a long time, he would play the first level and then fall asleep on the floor watching the ambient idle screen. But recently I learned he's played at least to level 3. Watching him use the PlayStation 6-axis controller is a lot of fun in itself. Keep up the good work, and please share any other anecdotes of parents playing video games you might come across. Mackenzie."
I forgot that game was 6-axis.
That is a good dad.
sense.
That is
Yeah.
a good
Awesome.
story about a hilarious good
I feel like
dad.
I want to start a blog that says my dad plays one game.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
My
should-
dad
that
plays
should be a
just one
Tumblr,
video
like, yeah,
game.
My
that
dad's
would be
one game
Tumblr.com.
was Dr. Mario.
Oh, man.
Oh,
good
that's
good one.
great.
Yeah, he would take my Game Boy and play it on trips and stuff. Since then, nothing. Yeah.
Remember my friend's dad, I was out around there one day when we were quite young. We were playing on the Mega Drive, the Genesis, as you call it here. Playing whatever. And then we went to bed. had a sleepover or whatever. And then when we got up in the morning, his dad was playing Columns. And he had been playing it all night long since we went to bed. So he'd been playing for like, I don't know, 12 hours or something crazy. And the score had like gone off the side of the screen and he'd totally like broken that game. So he just played. And then I don't think he played it again. I think he just played it like that one time
That was his one video
all
game,
night.
one
and then,
session.
And then he was out.
For every game, the all-time points high score leader is a dad.
Yeah.
There's inevitably
the
some
kill screen
dad
on
lord
that
out there. Just
Dad
like
Lord.
you can't top him because that's all he does.
Yeah.
It's good.
That's
I'm gonna make a book about this.
You should.
Dad's playing one game.
You should self-publish it. It'll be great. Nobody
and
will
I'll
give
put
you
it on
one star.
Goodreads.
Yeah. Nobody will give it 1 star.
Yeah, and then Nick will give it one star.
One dad will give it 1 star.
Yeah. He only gives 1 star.
I didn't know how else to score it.
Matt Natsis writes, The Koopa Kids Conundrum. Dear Idle Thumbs crew, recently you had an email espousing the difference between Baby Bowser and Bowser Jr. In it, you brought up the Koopa Kids, as well as the oft-asked question of who their mother is. Recently, Nintendo has been trying to say that the Koopalings are not Bowser's children, but rather just minions of the same species. I reject this retcon, because while the origin was made up by Nintendo of America, so were their names. Larry, Morton, Wendy, Iggy, Roy, Lemmy, and Ludwig. And Nintendo of Japan has adopted their names, and in my mind, this means they adopt the full story as canon. To me, the Koopalings are Bowser's kids, and they always will be. But who is their mom? We can actually answer that question within the Mario canon, and to do so, you need only to turn to the game you praised so highly.
Let us turn now to
Yoshi's Island. In it, it is established that in the Mushroom Kingdom, the old tale of the stork bringing children to leave at doorsteps is indeed true. The Koopa Kids, all 8 of them, with Bowser Jr. being the youngest, don't necessarily need to have a mother. They were delivered by the stork.
Revealed.
I hope you enjoyed this little piece of Mario World fun, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
I do. I really do enjoy that.
That was delightful. There's no weird... I love that because there was no weird sex thing.
No weird sex.
Oh, you mean...
No weird
like-
lizard
like-
sex with like...
Sorry, you needed the
with
Boston
Peach
accent for that.
and with,
Princess
you know,
Princess
fan art
Toadstool.
style.
if he had said, now let us turn to Yoshi's Island, and then it was a weird sex thing, that would have been
I would
not
have been creeped
a
out
good
a little bit.
situation.
Iggy Cooper. I remember him from Super Mario World because the music in those levels enabled you to sing about "Oh, Iggy Cooper."
That's awesome.
Just like that. And I just sit there singing it to this day.
Mark Fields writes, Video game marketing. Hi, Thumbs. Danielle's childhood fantasies of video game advertising led me to think about what role marketing data plays in game development, as that leaves some target market for games underserved. In my mind, there is some sort of marketing database which says if you make your recommended specs to run a certain game equal to X, you will reach a potential number of players Y with discretionary income of N, and consequently you should charge Z. It amazes me that you could create a game that with really high graphical fidelity that is basically sold at a standard price. Do you think gamers would ever have the patience for a $150 game? Especially considering in 4 years it'll be $7 at a Steam sale? It confuses me that the conversation about using previous generation's graphics is always about nostalgia and less about maximizing the amount of devices that can play your game. In other words, can I lower graphical fidelity to allow lower income folks to buy my game and still profit? Thanks for your time. I don't normally send emails, but you asked, so here you go. P.S. When I was a kid, I made my uncle sit through a puppet show based on the game Russian Attack. Mark, Salem, Massachusetts.
Awesome.
Kids.
Oh, kids
Russian
are great.
Attack. Star Citizen is a game that costs $150.
I mean, for a lot of games, to get the full game, quote unquote, with DLC, it's somewhere in those.
Yeah, or if you
And
subscribe.
I feel like this is almost
Area.
totally almost unconnected at this point to graphical fidelity. Outside of, like, obviously, if you're making a big, ambitious 3D open world game, you're probably not going to sell it for $2.99 on the iPhone. Although that said, GTA games have been ported to iOS. GTA 3 came out on iOS. Years later, though, obviously. But what was I just going to say? Oh, yeah. One of the reasons I say there's not like a direct correlation, even though broadly speaking, yes, games of like extreme graphical ambition tend to cost more than games of very, very low graphical ambition. That is generally true in the broadest possible sense, except that there's just weird counters to that. Like really hardcore war games end up selling a lot of cases for like $100 or more just because they have very niche audiences and like the addressable market is like fairly small, but there aren't tons of people making games at like that level of intricacy. And so it's kind of what they're perceived to be worth among like a certain number of people who will play those games. Weird things like that.
Yeah.
And then, obviously you have iOS games that use some of the most like ambitious mobile games around sell for nothing, but then want you to like put in money afterwards, or they make money with sale ads or whatever. We're living in a world where this is just much more complicated and market driven than one would like be able to sort of intuitively
the ultimate formula
graph.
Yeah, I feel like maybe 10 years ago it would have been much easier to do this. I just remember it being the most bonkers thing that you could buy a video game for $5. When the first Geometry Wars came out or whatever. Not quite 10 years ago. Maybe it was 10 years ago. I don't know. Somewhere.
Yeah, Xbox.
Yeah, it was.
Somewhere around
Original
there, right?
one.
2005 is when Xbox
Okay.
One or 360 came out, right?
Perfect.
Christ.
I just remember that being a big thing. Like it was mind-boggling to buy a game for $5, and it was a full video game. It wasn't like a bargain bin thing. It was like, here's our new game. Just the fact that pricing has...
Well, it had been a bit... When you think about what Geometry Wars was, that was a kind of game that just hadn't really been sold in a long time. You know what I mean? Like in the post-arcade era, like there weren't really a lot of games of that type being sold like outside of compilations that repackaged old games or things like that. But like someone was making a brand new game at that scope was not that common. I mean, there were shareware games.
Yeah.
Well, it's because it was the dawn of digital distribution,
Yeah.
though, right? Then no console had the ability to give you something that wasn't on a disc, and so manufacturing was huge cost.
Like a couple of years earlier, not
I remember
too
it being
much
kind
earlier.
of mind-blowing at the time,
Yeah.
and now it's where most of the
Well, I remember
games...
Xbox Live Arcade started as just straight up our old arcade games. It had like Tempest, or maybe not Tempest, but like Robotron and stuff. I remember I played a shitload of Robotron 2084 on my Xbox 360.
A shitty Model 2 where you had to you could buy like an arcade pass and you could play all of them, or you could play like for a quarter or some crazy
I can't even remember
actual thing like that.
There
was
Sounds
like that.
right. I just can't place it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was part of the gold, silver.
Okay.
distinction.
One of
the
those
silver and
things.
gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
PS3 did not have an online store at launch. They had added it in later, which is so weird.
That's weird to think about.
But it that console launched, and then almost immediately afterwards, like in the next 6 months, Facebook launched, Twitter launched, the iPhone was announced.
Yeah.
Like the world completely changed. Like that console was birthed into a world that then it was immediately like irrelevant, and then it just spent like its whole life
It was
catching up to
$600
that.
Oh God, yeah.
Right? Yeah, and it was so expensive, and it just spent so much time just trying to catch up to that. It's so good that when they finally like brought out the 4, they just addressed. They're like, fine, get rid of this.
This is a machine for now. Yeah.
Oh, good times.
Indeed.
Someone sent us, Preston Crawford sent us a picture of a Star Wars trading card, and the subject is, "It's your fault, I know this." And it's a picture of an alien playing a flute, and the alien's name is Droopy McCool. So
Wait, let me guess.
Card?
Can I guess?
I don't know
it
what
is?
this is.
Without even looking at it, can I guess?
Yeah.
Is it the guy from the Mos Eisley Cantina band? Like those aliens with the kind of Q-tip heads?
No, this is the one
Okay.
from Return of the Jedi. It's basically a balloon playing a flute. It's like a deflated,
the like
gross balloon man.
pink kind of with the little eyes. Yeah.
No, I guess.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Oh, that thing.
Droopy McCool.
That's Droopy McCool.
The elephant guy has a name too, a really goofy name. The elephant guy who's playing the band.
Is that Max Rebo? Because he's mentioned in this card.
There you go. Max
Listen, these
Rebo.
names are all outstanding.
They're
A member
amazing.
of the Max Rebo band, Droopy McCool's real name is Snit, and he hails from the planet Kurdo 3.
Oh my God!
Oh man, Nick has just produced a Salacious Crumb doll that he's waving in my face.
I like that it has like a little Christmas
He made it creep
ribbon.
up on him, though.
Fellow-
Like, he made it creep up like a gremlin.
I gotta keep reading these stupid
delightful.
words. Snip plays a flute made from a hollow Chindinkaloo plant that is native to his homeworld. Fellow band member Cy Snootles
Yes, nice noodles.
becomes quite taken
You guys don't know
with
these
him,
names?
and is she who suggests that he change his name to the more palatable Droopy McCool.
More palatable is Droopy
It
McCool.
really has always been true that all names in the Star Wars universe are basically just a child making things up as they go
Like
along.
a 3-year-old child.
Well, they
not
just
even,
announced
like,
the
not
big,
even a 10-year-old.
So what kind of plant is the flute made from? Chinka dooka doola badoo. Great. Ship it.
So there's a
Ship it,
character
Droopy.
in and out, which I know Nick saw, and we
Inside
agreed
Out?
not to really talk about this much or anything, but there's a character in Inside Out called Bing Bong who
Yeah.
really exemplifies the Star Wars character design
it's
process
true, actually, yeah.
from the mind of a 2-year-old.
Played by Richard Kind.
Yeah, it's very...
He's good.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
There was actually a small child. Again, I won't spoil anything or go into this too far, but it's a good movie that you should see. And also, a very tiny child in my screening. There's a departure of a character at one point, and a child cried out tearfully, like, "Bye, name of character."
Oh, no.
Like, like you could hear the tears and like screamed out
Oh,
for the
man.
audience. It was the best thing.
Richard Kind is in Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
He plays Larry David's cousin.
Yep.
I've been watching that entire show. It's slowly working through that whole show because I haven't seen it in years. And I love that show.
good.
Yeah.
Nick, do you know how much you are Larry David, Nick?
No, here's the thing. I do, and that's why when I watch Curb Your Enthusiasm and my girlfriend just kind of tunes out and doesn't care about it, I go, "Don't you understand? This is me. What does this say about us?"
And you're saying it the way he does. Like so he okay on that show he does a thing. So Larry David plays. I'm sorry to hijack your.
No,
are you
it's
done
good.
With,
I'm
sorry.
done.
Please continue.
Goodbye, conversation.
Goodbye.
No, it's yours. It's
I'm so sorry.
Run with it. You have my blessing.
All right. So, in Curb Your Enthusiasm, the HBO comedy, Larry David, creator of Seinfeld, plays a version of himself, also named Larry David. He does a thing where he impersonates things other people says, like he relates things that have happened to him. Where he's like, and then he comes to me and he does, except all of his impressions sound the same. All of his impersonations, whenever he's impersonating someone else's voice, it all is the same voice, and it's the same one that you, Nick Brecken, do when you're relating and impersonating someone else.
Me watching that show is like a joke happens on that show. Like Larry David just says anything, and I go, "Oh, that's brilliant!" And my girlfriend just rolls her eyes and just like looks in the other direction, and it just goes on for like an hour, and then that's it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that every line he delivers in that show is with like a little smirk in his,
I know. I
in
love
his
that-
face or
I love
something.
that
Like he's
I love
enjoying
that
it
he
so much.
knows that he's full of shit.
Yeah.
When he's like, there's so many times where he'll be strenuously trying to like prove his point, except he is cracking up about it too. And it's like, you don't even believe this bullshit.
I love that. I love that can still work.
Add it to
Prepare to watch like
my
this
pile.
though. With
Like this.
hands over your eyes.
Be like, that's Nick.
Yeah.
I know him.
All right. You guys want to call it?
I think so.
What are we gonna call it?
Ship it, Droopy. Thanks for listening. You can find our website at idlethumbs.net/idlethumbs.